But as it looks like maybe getting on the back edge here into portions of Lincoln as far as the heavy rain goes. But definitely heads up, if you're in Casanova County, it's already getting into the western edges of the counties there. But then also up towards Douglas and Sarpy counties. You got some friends and family up there. Make sure they know that it looks like they've got severe thunderstorm heading towards their area. In fact, it looks like a new severe thunderstorm warning has just been issued, a warning within the warning. It looks like this is going to be for southwestern Pottawatomie County, that's in southwestern Iowa, northern Sarpy, southwestern Washington, southeastern Dodge, Douglas, and eastern Saunders County until 6:15. A severe thunderstorm located over Meade or 5 miles east of Wahoo, moving northeast at 35 miles per hour. A destructive storm for Saunders, Douglas, Sarpy, Pottawatomie, Washington, and Dodge counties. 80-mile-per-hour wind gusts are possible. These storms have a history of producing 70 to 80-mile-per-hour wind gusts and widespread wind damage to trees, power lines, and some structures. So again, this is a new severe thunderstorm warning that includes northern Sarpy, southwestern Washington, southeastern Dodge, Douglas, and eastern Saunders counties until 6:15. A severe thunderstorm located over Meade, moving northeast at 35 miles per hour. It is a destructive storm that for Saunders, Douglas, Sarpy, Pottawatomie, Washington, and Dodge counties, 80-mile-per-hour wind gusts are possible as these storms have had a history of producing 70 to 80-mile-per-hour wind gusts and widespread wind damage to trees, power lines, and some structures. Again, this is a storm that has produced widespread wind damage across Lancaster County, so you want to seek shelter now inside a sturdy structure and stay away from windows. And as we've been talking about, torrential rainfall is occurring with this storm, may lead to flash flooding. So do not drive your vehicle through flooded roadways. That's the latest on that warning that just got issued.
Widen that view out again for folks, Brandon, so we can get Lincoln back on the screen here. As we look at, excuse me, as we look at Skyview, the visibility is increasing. So I think the heavy rain, at least as far as Midtown Lincoln is concerned, the heaviest rain has now pushed off just to our east, still looking at significant severe weather threats across the county. Several reports of 80-mile-per-hour plus wind gusts at the Lincoln Airport. In fact, a couple of times we had 83-mile-per-hour wind gusts. So again, you're looking at storm tracker radar. These storms continue to track off towards the Omaha area. Destructive winds in advance of the main precipitation shield. Could be looking at 70 to 80-mile-per-hour wind gusts there. This cluster of thunderstorms, the only warnings right now in the state of Nebraska. There are a couple of warnings in north central Kansas and still some strong storms there, but they're moving to the east-southeast. These storms are moving east towards the Omaha metro. So while we've got folks on the line, in fact, Brandon, let's take a look at Skyview one more time just to give people an idea of how different things look now. Things have improved quite a bit. Still looking at thunderstorm activity, but as I step off here, you're going to see that the visibility has improved tremendously. Let's take a look at, you've got information you want to share?
There you can see that this is just the latest observation from the Lincoln Airport. As you can see on your screen, temperature's down to 68 now. North-northwest wind, well, it just updated. It was north-northwest 32, gusting to 74. Now north 25, gusting to 56. And visibility has at least gotten back to 3/4 of a mile at the airport.
All right, so we're talking about degrees of improvement, not major improvement, but degrees of improvement. Now it's a northerly wind that's gusting to near 60 miles an hour at the airport. The temperature is down to 68 degrees. As we mentioned earlier, we topped out at 100 today in Lincoln and had heat index values over 110. And now we're talking about a feels like temperature of 68 degrees to go with that temperature, but still winds gusting out of the north to nearly 60 miles per hour. So you can certainly see that the visibility is improving. The precipitation rate has decreased quite a bit, but we are still looking at very strong winds out there. And if those were indeed power flashes, and with the power outages that have been reported, we need to be so very careful out there because that is a very serious and can be a dangerous situation with either down lines or trees or lines into trees or trees falling on power lines. So folks, please be very, very careful with any kind of decision that you need to make or you want to make right now. Everybody wants to go out and see how bad the damage is, but this is not the time to do it at this point. Our last report was of 10,000 people across the Lincoln metro area without power. Several other damage reports that we've gotten to this point was water covering the road at 48th and Holdridge with stalled cars in that area, the possibility of roof damage to a motel near the Lincoln Airport, power out at 27th and Capitol Parkway, 33rd and Vine, and numerous reports of trees down across town with power outages also reported across all corners of Lincoln. At least that's the description that we had from that activity. Brandon, what have you got?
Latest report looks like coming out of Cass County, 81 mile per hour wind gusts reported in Greenwood, and also a report of some tree lines down in Eagle.
Pardon me?
It says tree lines down in Eagle.
Okay.
81 mile per hour wind gusts reported in Greenwood.
All right, so again, as far as widespread damage is concerned, this has been an extremely significant weather event. These severe thunderstorms moving through, and we haven't had one tornado warning. And you and I talked about this earlier in the afternoon. It seemed like every severe weather cluster this year had a couple of tornado warnings. Didn't have it, didn't need it, because we had winds, damaging winds over 80 miles per hour across a wide swath of the county. And Lancaster County, not the only one. Other counties have been impacted as well. But we know just from being here in the last hour and being on the air for the last hour how things quickly deteriorated here in Lincoln and how bad things got. And again, the worst of it appears to be moving east now of the Lincoln Metro, but we're still talking about winds gusting to near 60 miles per hour as far as the airport is concerned. So we'll go back to radar, get folks caught up to date on that. But now we're north winds gusting to near 50 miles an hour here in the capital city. That north wind and the lower dew point and the falling temperature indicating that front is obviously responsible for these thunderstorms and now moving off towards the east. So you can see on radar, this is the cluster of warnings that we have. Portions of Cass, Lancaster, Odo, Saunders, with that severe thunderstorm warning until 6 o'clock. Areas just to the east and to the northeast of Lancaster County under severe thunderstorm warning till around 6:15 this evening. Again, the main threats being the possibility of 80+ mile per hour winds doing some damage, as well as tremendous amounts of rain, heavy rain, very heavy rain. You combine 70 and 80 mile per hour winds with rainfall rates of 1 to 3 inches per hour, and you were talking about near zero visibility and the possibility of flash flooding. So that continues to be a real concern with these storms as they continue to move to the east at about 40 miles per hour. So we also have a report now coming into the newsroom. Thank you, Cole Miller, with reports of the roof completely blown off at 70th and O Street, the Midas business. Is that what we're talking about, Cole?
Yeah, that car service center.
Yes. So roof completely blown off at Midas, located at 70th and O Street here in the capital city. Do you guys have anything you want to add at this point?
We've passed along
Cole and Madison.
Yeah, we've passed along all the notes so far, Ken, that we're getting from our reporters out in the field. Again, they're kind of scrambling to go to see some of these down trees, these down power lines. More than a dozen plus at last check. That was 20 minutes ago, admittedly, that I checked. Pulse point. So we have wires down all over Lincoln, trees down all over Lincoln, as you have mentioned. So we're trying to get some of that content turned around and hopefully have that for our 6 o'clock show.
Then my next question to ask you guys, and maybe one of you can find out, are we going to extend coverage past 5:30? I mean, we've taken up the entire newscast time. So if you have an opportunity to maybe talk to Michael, the news director, and see what he would like to do, we are certainly ready, willing, and able to stay on if that's what Michael would like to do. We'd like to have more information to pass along, but I mean, this has just been happening in the last half hour to 45 minutes. So we're going to continue with the coverage here as long as is necessary. But it does appear that the worst of these storms now are beginning to move to the east of the Lincoln Metro, going to threaten more of Cass and Odo County, threaten the Omaha and Douglas County area. So that's the latest. You can see the movement on those storms on Storm Tracker.
So we will stay on for the time being.
Okay.
Bill Rentschler is trying to turn some stuff for us from the streaming studio, so we should have some photos and videos from not only our field crews, but user-generated content that's been coming into the newsroom as well.
Thanks, Cole. We will do that. We'll stay right here. It's an important thing. In a spring and summer filled with severe weather, this has got to be one of the nastiest 60-minute time frames we've gone through here in Lincoln. And I know the Arbor Day tornadoes, and I know there was another round of tornadoes, tornadoes south part of town again, or just southwest of the Lincoln Metro here a couple of weeks ago. It was a very serious situation. We've had the flooding rains several different times earlier in the month, and it seemed like night after night of severe weather for the longest period of time. But this has this might jump to the top of the list for a lot of folks.
Yeah, well, we started the month of July. You were talking about with the severe weather, and that's when we had, I believe, the tornadoes in the southern part of Lancaster County, the tornado there, and of course we had several other tornado events here as we've gone throughout this severe weather season. So we began the month of July with severe weather and a lot of rain, and now we're ending the month of July with a lot of severe weather, at least in the Lancaster County area and some other areas as well.
All right, Brandon, let's take people to the very beginning. I think we're in my first look show, so let's go and let's just kind of run through that and see where that takes us. Excuse me. See where that takes us.
It does look like the winds are decreasing at the airport right now. Of course, we'll show you that here, and as you can see, we've definitely increased the visibility quite a bit. So that is definitely, as you mentioned, an indication that it looks as though the heaviest, maybe the worst part of this storm has now moved east, at least of Lincoln at this point, but still getting some gusty winds out there. In fact, here you go, Ken. I'll go ahead and put those current conditions on here for you.
Okay, so this is a look at the current conditions at the Lincoln Metro. These numbers are all from the Lincoln Airport. 69 degrees here at the studio, 68 at the airport. Still looking at north winds gusting to around 50 miles per hour right now in Lincoln, but the visibility has gone from a quarter of a mile, where it was a little bit ago, to 2.5 miles. So that's certainly good news. So Brandon, let's go through, let's see where this takes us here. Originally, when we were going to have a 5 o'clock newscast, we would started folks with the severe thunderstorm watch area, and again, southern Nebraska, east central Nebraska, southeastern portions of Nebraska, northern portions of Kansas, still officially under this severe thunderstorm watch until 10 o'clock, but there is no way this is going to last through 10 o'clock, at least for the vast majority of these areas. So we'll move on. I think radar will be our next thing. So this is kind of the broad overview of what's going on out there. So we're still looking at some showers and thunderstorms, non-severe weather here in south central Nebraska, and then some weakening storms here. This, I believe, was the storm cell that was around Bruning at one point, and then this is that line of severe thunderstorms that brought the destructive 80 mile per hour plus winds across the Lincoln Metro, and that continues to push off towards the east, towards the Omaha area. So if you have family or friends in Omaha, might be a good idea to give them a quick call and make sure that they are aware of just how devastating this line of storms has been, because it's now only about 2.5 counties long as it continues to work its way towards the east. So we're getting hammered now in portions of Cass and Otoe County, Saunders County, eastern Saunders County, no doubt about it. We're talking about Douglas and Sarpy counties, looking at some significant weather as well. So we'll continue, Brandon. This is the activity now in north central portions of Kansas. Got a couple of warnings here till 6:15 and 5:45 for these areas. 70 mile per hour winds are possible, 2.5 to 3 inch in diameter hail. That's really the only thing that we haven't had a report of, at least from those storms that rolled through the Lincoln Metro. No large hail to go with those 70 and 80 mile per hour plus winds. So I guess we can count ourselves a little bit lucky there, but it sounds like there's been an awful lot of damage done across portions of the Lincoln Metro, including power outages. So that's the storm activity there. None of these storms now are severe, so we're looking at a couple of the severe cells, portions of Cass, Lancaster, Otoe, and Saunders. With that severe thunderstorm warning officially till 6 o'clock. But as I mentioned, it looks like the bulk of these storms, the strongest parts of these storms now have moved to the east of the Lincoln Metro, and they're going to continue to threaten the Omaha area as far as Plattsmouth is concerned, maybe you folks in Nebraska City as well, and maybe even up into the Fremont area. So those storms continue to move towards the east. What's the next graphic that'll punch up here? These are our current temperatures, and again, for most of the day we were in the 80s and 90s, hit 100 degrees in southeastern Nebraska. Beatrice, you folks had over 100 degrees today. We were at 100 in Lincoln, and now we're talking about after those destructive thunderstorms, we're talking about temperatures now in the 60s and 70s, although it is still 90 in Nebraska City, 94 in Fall City, and 91 in Omaha. So that's the area, those are the areas where the strongest storms have yet to push through. And dew points have come down a little bit in most areas, but you can still see 70s to around 80 degree dew points in the extreme east and southeastern part of the state. Another part of this severe thunderstorm cluster was heavy rain, and I mean torrentially heavy rain with some flash flooding and some stalled cars at 48th and the Holdridge area. So again, never a good thing. And then the feels like temperature not coming into play.
Dunbar moving east at 45 miles per hour. These are destructive storms for portions of Fremont, Mills, Pottawatomie, Sarpy, and Cass counties. 80 mile per hour wind gusts remain possible as this line is moving through. These storms have a history of producing widespread damage to trees, power lines, and some structures. It says in this statement, people attending Sarpy County Fairgrounds should seek safe shelter immediately. Again, if you are Sarpy County Fairgrounds, make sure you are seeking safe shelter immediately. This is from the statement from the National Weather Service. Again, this new warning including southern Sarpy and Cass counties until 6:30, 80-mile-per-hour wind gusts possible.
We also want to remind folks that you could be living in a community where the sirens are sounding. And it doesn't have to be, I mean, if the emergency managers think that there is a destructive wind event ongoing or about to be ongoing, they will sound those sirens. And so that's another reminder to get to your safe places. Got some information here that several power poles snapped in north of Greenwood on Highway 63, a semi reportedly overturned on the interstate, also measuring 75-mile-per-hour winds in Valley right now. Trees being blown over on Blondo in Omaha. And so all kinds of information now coming in from the Omaha area. In fact, I saw one, at least a report, possible report of a wall cloud in Omaha. And you and I were talking a little bit ago, that's about the only thing we haven't seen yet is a tornado warning at some point. So Brandon, let's widen that view just a little bit, give folks in Beatrice and southeastern Nebraska a little bit of an idea if they're looking at anything significant or threatening at this time, and it really doesn't look like that. That there's threats down in that extreme southeastern corner, at least not at this point, but we showed you current temperatures. We were still in the 90s in places like Nebraska City and Falls City. I think at this time, we're going to take a minute or two and throw it to meteorologist Bill Rentschler, who's on the streaming desk right now. Bill, what's the latest from where you're at, and what can you tell us?
I'll appreciate it, Ken. You and Brandon have had some excellent coverage. As you can see, TVs behind me are out as we took a power hit here at the station, and so still trying to get everything back up and online. But we have a lot to kind of show folks and to go through. As again, like Ken mentioned, this was probably one of the more significant wind events that we've ever had move through Lincoln and Lancaster County. So really quickly, I'm going to punch up here. Can't hear me? Audio is up, and I have levels bouncing on my end. So hopefully, again, we can continue to work through some of the technical issues. Back to Ken? Okay.
To pass along some information. So we'll get back to him as soon as we can. Again, we're looking at storm tracker radar. We've mentioned a couple of times now in the last 10 minutes that the most significant thunderstorm activity with this cluster of storms that brought the destructive winds and torrential rains to the capital city has since moved to the east, but it's threatening now the Omaha area, certainly could potentially be threatening the Nebraska City area. So a couple of areas that we still need to watch very, very closely. But if you're in the Lincoln Metro, things have improved dramatically. In fact, Nate or Travis, whoever is running the ship back there in master control, if you guys would take Skyview, I think it is a much more peaceful looking Skyview at this time here in the Lincoln area as we look back towards the west and southwest. So obviously the visibility has improved tremendously. The cars are moving smartly along Vine Street right now. So things have improved dramatically, obviously, here in Lincoln. So it remains to be seen how much damage we've seen, what the power outage total is going to end up being here in the Lincoln Metro. Tremendous amount of energy from these thunderstorms as a cold front rammed into extremely hot, humid, unsettled weather conditions across southeastern Nebraska. And we paid the price. With the 80 to 83 mile per hour wind gusts, torrential rains, dangerous lightning, and obviously damage, either tree damage, power line damage, with the situation that rolled through here between 4:30 and 5 o'clock, or at least began between 4:30 and 5 o'clock. So obviously
Storms continue
not
to
giving
push
the all
through
clear, but
Lincoln.
you
One of
don't
the most
see any
destructive
threatening
wind
weather
events
to the
that we've
west
probably had
of
in
that
Lincoln in
line
recent
now
memory.
that has
Numerous
moved
trees
on
down,
up
numerous
towards, the
power
Wahoo
outages,
and getting
nearly
ready to move into
20,000
the
people
Omaha area
reported without
and the
power.
Nebraska City area. So that is the most serious situation right now. We're at 5:43 officially. Lancaster County remains under that severe thunderstorm warning until 6 o'clock tonight, but you can also see that the Weather Service has cleared the